for those of us who still drive gas-powered cars, it's like there's two things the octane rating gives you. The one is an independent assessment that this is gasoline and it's not going to break your car. And the second thing it gives you is choice. You can buy 87, 89, and 91 octane depending on what kind of car you're driving. And that's really healthy. Like it provides transparency for the consumer. It allows the seller to parse their commodity into different tiers. And we're doing the same exact thing for data.
So, Scott McKinley, Truthset, welcome. What is new with Truthset?
Well, there's a couple of new initiatives and product launches that we're getting out in the market right now. One of the most interesting initiatives right now is a follow-up to our household accuracy study that we did a couple years ago with CIMM and a whole bunch of supporters there that was useful in helping the industry understand how accurate householding is on average, because householding is really important for the whole ad ecosystem. That was a great piece of research. We turned it into a product that allows basically anybody to understand how accurate their identity graphs are and the ability to put people in houses accurately. We're following that up now with a study an industry-wide study to measure the accuracy of IP addresses in terms of how they are linked to both people and households. IP addresses have become the key identifier to support CTV and a lot of other addressable advertising, and nobody really knows how accurate those linkages are, right? And sort of the word on the street is it's somewhere around 50% accurate. I think some sources of IP linkage are very, very accurate, and some are not so accurate. And what we're going to do is work to understand how good those linkages are, where you can trust them, where you should suspect them and maybe not use them, and help the industry just do a better job of having transparency and control over this very, very important identity key.
Now, you've been passionate about this for some time, about this notion that the industry just isn't paying enough attention to the quality of the data, which is underlying, measurement, advanced advertising, hugely critical for the industry. Why do marketeers sometimes not want to heed that message? Why do we sometimes prize efficiency over really drilling into the quality of the data and understanding its effectiveness?
I mean, there's lots of reasons. I would start by saying that the cookie, which was never meant to be an advertising tracking mechanism, it was meant to, log you back into your bank or something like that when you visit a website. But that has created what I would call a false positive. It's given a sense of addressability that turned out not to be that high quality anyway. And once Apple deprecated cookies in iOS with ATS, it's sort of like lost its utility. But everyone was hanging on to this false sense of accuracy that never really performed the way it needed to. And I think in the meantime, the walled gardens sort of realized that if they ask users to authenticate and just provide an email in return for better service and personalization and all the benefits of being logged in, well, it helped them sort of build a much better understanding of who was giving time and attention to these platforms and monetizing that audience 5 to 10 to 20 times better than a cookie audience or a not identified audience. And so, I mean, the question you ask is why are we still, and it befuddles me, why, especially since the walled gardens with a very, very good identity layer and the ability to build human-based audiences that are actually people that you want, and they walked away with the programmatic dollar, the display dollar, and they're going to walk away with TV as well. Why is everyone mucking around and tolerating anything less than that level of quality in the open ecosystem?
And I think you and I have spoken about this a lot in the past. The commercial consequences of transacting on low-quality data are significant. You are literally wasting money, and lots of it.
It's unbelievable. I mean, if go to your favorite AI tool and ask what the difference is in terms of monetization for a cookie, an unauthenticated versus a cookie versus an authenticated audience, and it's 5 times higher CPM rates, much better performance, no matter what source you use to try to figure out what those differences are. And it's I think that the open ecosystem is the Titanic. It hit the iceberg 10 years ago, and why aren't people waking up to the playbook, which is super obvious? Let's find out what's really happening. Let's stop pretending that all this noise is actually signal. And let's move to a model that respects the consumer and their wishes and their privacy, but allows publishers to understand who their customers are, build audiences that are actually human and accurate, and get closer to walled garden level performance in terms of CPM rates and ROI performance for marketers.
I think Karl Marx said that philosophers have sought to understand the world, but the point is to change it. So diagnosing the issues around data quality is one thing. Are there practical things that buyers and sellers can do to improve the quality of the underlying data assets?
Well, I think that marketers, back to your question a few minutes ago, everyone's addicted to a sort of a worldview that's not performing, and we need to shift away from that, acknowledge it as not performing, understand why it's not performing, and then create a new playbook that allows us to actually get the value that digital addressable advertising promises. It's funny, there's a sort of a funny quote about this. Like, you never want to build a business. If you want to make money, you tell lies to people who want to be lied to. If you don't want to make money, tell the truth to people who want to be lied to. And I think to answer the question, like the marketer and everyone through the supply chain needs to first admit, just like with any addiction, admit that we have a problem, and then understand the problem, and then create a new pattern to solve the problem. And that's what we need. That's what we need to do collectively as an industry.
But the anxiety that people sometimes express is the juice worth the squeeze? Are there actually cost-effective solutions that we can implement which don't slow us down, or create significant logistical difficulties in an already complex supply chain?
It's like that's a pretty funny question to ask, because is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, anybody who's asking that in the open programmatic world or in the traditional TV world is literally facing an existential crisis.
I suppose advertisers have always accepted a certain level of wastage in their ad buys.
Yeah.
It may be that in the old world it was 50%, we used to argue.
Yeah.
Nowadays we're saying maybe it's still 50%. As long as I'm getting some of my target audience in my buy and at least some of the data. Because even you're talking about 30% being accurate, 50% being accurate. But they're still half accurate.
At best. I'll tell you, right now, I would, based on 25 years of being in this industry, 7 years at Nielsen, several startups, all across the supply chain, I would tell you that $1 that's put into, on average, $1 that's put into the open ecosystem probably results in 10 or 11 cents reaching the target.
Wow.
When you factor in fraud, invalid traffic, mistargeting, bad matching between data sets, every time you do a match process, like the source data might start at 90% accurate, like sitting in a credible data provider's repository of data. By the time it's an ad hitting a piece of glass, it's no longer 90%. It's like 25, 30% accurate, because it's got to go through so many hops, skips, and jumps, and each time you lose records and you lose fidelity, you introduce error.
But I guess my thinking is there are probably some simple practical steps you can take. So, as a marketeer, understand the recency of the data set. If the data set includes records that are 5 years old, it's probable that a lot of them are inaccurate.
Yeah, but those
by direct from publishers with a lot of authenticated, logged-in subscribers and users. Minimize the number of hops in the supply chain. All of this stuff helps.
Or look at all those things as a pain in the ass and just keep doing what you're doing until someone tells you different, which is what's happening. We at Truthset are trying to make things easier. We're launching a product called Data Ratings, which is the first ever classification of audiences into quality metrics. So basically like Moody's for data, AAA, AA, A, and B.
I saw the announcement of this. This is hugely exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I remember discussing this with you 3 years ago. So congratulations on bringing it to market.
Yeah.
How's it going to work in practice? What is it? How does a marketeer take advantage of the ratings?
There's two ways to think about it. First of all data is not created equal. In a given data file, you'll have a bunch of records that are super accurate. You'll have some that are a little bit less accurate, some that are middling, and some that are just woefully inaccurate. And typically, you just buy the whole file, and waste is priced in, and you have no way of knowing anyway. So you just do it and hope it works. So we're trying to break that up. We're trying to say, look, some use cases require super duper accurate data, like modeling, seed file creation, AI, LLMs, like you want the best possible data to feed into a model or to predict a projection. Other times you can be more liberal with your scale. In accuracy, you can sort of toggle between accuracy and scale to get what's appropriate for your data, whatever activation you're doing. So we're giving that opportunity for sellers to say, actually to earn more price for higher quality data inventory, and buyers to have choice. It's just like an octane rating on a gas pump. For those of us who still drive gas-powered cars, it's like there's two things the octane rating gives you. The one is an independent assessment that this is gasoline and it's not going to break your car. And the second thing it gives you is choice. You can buy 87, 89, and 91 octane depending on what kind of car you're driving. And that's really healthy. Like it provides transparency for the consumer. It allows the seller to parse their commodity into different tiers. And we're doing the same exact thing for data. I mean, back to the utility of it, we're doing this so that it becomes easier to use. So, we want, I'm hopefully, in the hallways of a conference, someone say, hey, great job on that campaign. Yeah, we used AAA and AA data. It blew out our ROA estimates because we used really, really good data for that. That's what we're trying to engender is a new transparency and control over third-party audience data.
And that to me is the critical word. This is about giving buyers transparency. And we should see a more efficient market. There will be marketers who feel they can find value in junk bond status data.
Right.
That's fine, more power to them.
Exactly.
But some want to pay the price and transact against high fidelity, high quality data. Great, now they know what that data is.
Yeah, and there's two ways to use data ratings. One is to ask your data provider to sell you only the AAAs or AAs. If they're part of our data collective, that's a possibility for them. The other way is multi-sourcing. So the problem with just looking at one data source and saying, I want the best, it's like it's a haystack, you're pulling out the needles, and there might not be enough needles to hit your scale targets. But we're enabling multi-sourcing, where you can pull just AAA records from N number of sources, like the best of 25 or 30 or 40 providers.
Wow, that's really...
And then you can amass scale while still preserving the accuracy level that you want. It's pretty powerful.
Scott, this is amazing stuff, and many congratulations on getting this into market. Can't wait to see what progress you've made this time next year. Take care.
Thanks.